Hello! I would be very pleased if you would like the video. Subscribe so you don't miss new videos every day that will help you relax. I'm also curious where you are listening to me from and what time it is now. Write it in the comments. Enjoy watching. Please subscribe. When the sun rises over the desert, its light slices through the silence like a knife through old leather. In the town of Dry Creek, the streets are quiet. Horses sway gently on their tethers, and the wind plays with the shutters. Above the rooftops drifts the smell of coffee and dust. Here, in the heart of the untamed West, where the law has a price and life has none, lives a man named Elias Boone, a saloon trader who has witnessed more deals than any sheriff. His day is a constant exchange, goods for coins, lies for smiles, fear for whiskey. But today will be different. When a stranger in a black coat arrives at his counter, Elias will find himself holding not just gold, but a secret that smells of death. This is the story of one ordinary day that becomes the last calm before the storm. Morning in Dry Creek always began the same way. The sun climbed slowly, like a drunkard searching for strength after a long night. The air was dry, warm, smelling of hay, sweat, and heated metal. Elias Boone pushed open the doors to his small trading stall inside the Silver Spur Saloon, where faint music from the old piano drifted like a lazy breeze. He passed the tables scattered with half-empty glasses and gave a quick glance at the bar. Behind the counter stood Clara, the saloon's owner, a woman with eyes sharp as knives. She already knew when Boone arrived, always at dawn, before the first customers. "Morning, Clara," he muttered, placing a box of goods on the counter. "Quiet after last night." "Quiet," she smiled, polishing a glass with a rag dirtier than the floorboards. "You just didn't hear the drunk cowboy singing about lost love. Silence is a luxury." Boone grinned slightly and began laying out his goods: tobacco, coffee, bullets, pieces of soap, old maps, even charms that only the fearful believed in. His hands moved with calm precision, the practiced rhythm of someone who has traded on the edge of civilization for years. By late morning, the saloon began to stir. The doors creaked as cowboys dusted from the trail entered, miners bragged over newfound veins of gold, and the piano thumped along, slightly out of key, yet perfect for the chaos. Elias sat behind his counter, observing it all through a small mirror, reflecting a part of the hall. Then he appeared, the stranger, tall, draped in a black coat despite the heat, his hat shadowing most of his face. His presence seemed to quiet the saloon, if only for a heartbeat. He walked to the bar, ordered a whiskey, drank slowly, then turned to Elias's stall. "You trade in supplies?" the man asked, voice low and steady. "Anything with a price," Elias replied without looking up. "Even trust?" Boone looked at him sharply. There was something unsettling in the stranger's gaze. Silence stretched between them as the rest of the room buzzed with life. The man placed a small leather pouch on the counter. Elias froze. Inside were gold nuggets, catching the light like fire in the desert sun. "Keep this until sunset," the stranger said. "Double the worth if you do." Boone hesitated. "Why not take it to the bank?" The stranger's eyes, cold and sharp, met his. "The bank isn't safe." Gold had always carried risk, and this weighed heavier than usual. Still, greed spoke louder than caution on the frontier. "All right," he said finally, sweeping the pouch into a locked box beneath the counter. "Deal." The stranger nodded and departed silently. For hours, Elias tried to focus on trading, but his mind wandered to the gold. What if the man didn't return? What if someone else knew? Every creak of the floor made him glance over his shoulder. Every laugh sounded like a threat. By evening, the saloon had transformed into a storm of noise and light. Poker tables were crowded, whiskey flowed, and the scent of sweat, smoke, and sin filled the air. Elias counted his coins when Sheriff Dalton entered. The sheriff's boots thudded on the floor like war drums. "Evening, folks," he called. "Heard a stranger is riding through town with a pouch of stolen gold." "Anyone seen him?" Elias's stomach sank. Clara nodded subtly toward him. "Boone's been talking to all sorts today. Maybe he knows." Dalton's gaze sharpened. "Is that true, Boone?" Elias forced a shaky laugh. "Sheriff, I sell tobacco, not trouble. Haven't seen any gold today." Dalton stared, unblinking. "You sure about that?" "Sure as sin," Elias said. The sheriff tipped his hat and left. Elias exhaled, heart pounding. He looked at the lockbox. The gold seemed to glow, whispering promises he didn't dare trust. Night fell. The poker game turned ugly. Two men shouted over a hand, one accusing the other of cheating. Then came the sound every saloon feared, a gunshot. The room froze. A man fell, blood spilling across the boards. Chaos erupted. People dove for cover. Clara ducked behind the bar, glasses shattering. Elias grabbed the lockbox and ran for the back door. The gold was still inside, heavy and hot. Outside, the desert night was cold and silent. He crouched behind the saloon, breathing hard, nerves on fire. Then, a voice. "I see you took care of my gold," the stranger said, stepping from the shadows. Elias froze. The man's revolver gleamed in the moonlight. "You didn't think I'd leave it, did you?" the stranger asked. Elias's pulse quickened. Somewhere inside, he knew the day had only just begun. The desert night pressed against Dry Creek like a heavy blanket, still and unyielding. Elias crouched behind the saloon, his heart hammering, fingers clutching the lockbox as if it could protect him. Inside, the gold shifted slightly, warm and alive in its own way. Every sound made him flinch. The hoot of an owl, the creak of a floorboard, the faint whistle of wind through the wooden eaves. Danger had a smell, and tonight, it was thick. From the shadows, the stranger stepped forward, gun glinting under the moonlight. His eyes were cold, unreadable, yet his posture carried an unspoken warning. Elias rose slowly, hands in the air, the lockbox pressed to his chest. I've been careful," he said, voice shaking, though he tried to sound steady. "The gold is safe. No one's touched it." The stranger's lips twitched almost imperceptibly. "Safe," he repeated. "Everything is safe until it's not. Tell me, Elias Boone, do you understand what you're holding?" His voice was calm, almost hypnotic, but the weight behind it sent chills down Elias's spine. The air between them seemed to solidify, heavy with unspoken threats. Suddenly, a shot rang from inside the saloon. The sharp crack split the night, echoing off the walls and rattling the loose shutters. Elias flinched, ducking instinctively behind a barrel. Somewhere in the shadows, a man had fallen, the sound of struggle and angry shouts following close behind. The stranger didn't move, though his eyes followed the chaos like a hawk, unflinching, calculating. Elias knew then that staying outside was a gamble. The saloon could be dangerous, but so could retreat. He glanced at the lockbox again, weighing options, the warm gold urging him to act, tempting him with promise and peril alike. Each second stretched unbearably, the night holding its breath. And then, another shot, this time closer, and the faint smell of gunpowder filled his nostrils, burning and sharp. With a quiet resolve, he stepped toward the side entrance, careful to stay in shadows. His boots made soft thuds on the dry wooden boards. Inside, the saloon was a whirlwind of chaos. Tables overturned, chairs knocked down, the remaining patrons ducking for cover. Clara was crouched behind the bar, eyes wide with fear but focused, hands gripping the counter as if she could anchor herself to sanity in the storm. Elias slid behind the bar, lockbox pressed to his chest. The stranger followed silently, his presence both threatening and protective, like a shadow that might kill or shield. "Stay calm," the stranger said, almost conversationally. "No one else needs to die tonight, if you follow my instructions." Elias nodded, swallowing hard, sweat dripping down his temple despite the cold night air. His mind raced, imagining the consequences of a single wrong move. A third shot fired, and the sound of a chair toppling was deafening in the tense silence that followed. The stranger moved first, stepping toward the nearest shadow, revolver drawn. His movements deliberate, precise. Elias held his breath, every nerve alert, feeling both the thrill and terror of survival. For the first time, he realized that this gold was more than currency. It was a spark, a fuse lit, threatening to ignite everything in its path. Time stretched, then broke as Elias saw figures retreating, shadows slipping into corners, whispers of movement among the tables. He kept low, pressing the lockbox to his chest as if it were a talisman. The stranger's eyes met his, and in that glance, Elias understood. He was both witness and participant, trapped in a night that had already begun shaping destiny. Minutes felt like hours, but eventually, the saloon quieted. The chaos left behind a residue of smoke, dust, and faint metallic scent of blood. Elias breathed shakily, listening to the wind whistling through broken windows, each gust a reminder that the desert night never truly sleeps. Clara peeked from behind the bar, nodding silently at him, acknowledging survival, but not safety. The stranger leaned close, voice low and steady. You did well so far, Boone. But the night isn't over. That gold you guard, it's wanted, sought after, and it changes people. Keep it safe, or it will destroy everything around you. Elias swallowed, trembling. He wanted to ask questions, to understand, but the weight of the words pinned him like iron. He nodded instead, gripping the lockbox tighter. Outside, the moon traced pale lines across the desert floor, dust swirling in faint eddies as if alive. Elias glanced at the door, knowing that the next move could decide more than his life. It could alter the balance of Dry Creek forever. He was caught between instinct and duty, greed and fear, the lure of gold against the certainty of death. And all the while, the stranger watched, patient, silent, a sentinel of the night's cruel law. Suddenly, movement at the far end of the saloon. Another figure entering, unannounced. Elias stiffened. The night had not ended. The storm was far from over. Shadows danced across walls as gunmetal gleamed in the pale moonlight. The quiet before a storm, he realized, was always the most dangerous moment. And tonight, the desert held secrets that might never see dawn. The figure at the far end of the saloon moved with deliberate caution, the faint scrape of boots on the floorboards echoing like a heartbeat. Elias pressed the lockbox against his chest, every muscle tense. The stranger in black remained silent, his eyes sharp and unblinking. In the dim light, shadows twisted across walls, creating illusions of danger that seemed almost real. The night had thickened into a living thing, breathing and watching. The newcomer stepped closer, revealing a face masked by a wide-brimmed hat. I've come for it, he said, voice steady, measured. Elias's stomach churned. He had suspected others might seek the gold, but hearing it confirmed made the threat concrete. Immediate. The stranger in black shifted slightly, his gun steady, a warning in the moonlight. Every second stretched, a thin rope between life and chaos. Elias's mind raced. He could hide the lockbox, flee into the desert, or face this threat directly. The gold's weight seemed to pulse in his hands, almost alive, almost demanding. It's mine to guard, he said finally, voice low but firm. No one else touches it tonight. The stranger in black inclined his head, acknowledging Elias's courage. Good, he said, but courage alone won't keep you alive. You must act with wisdom. The newcomer's eyes darted toward the back exit. I don't want to hurt anyone, he added, almost apologetically. Yet the glint of metal beneath his coat betrayed the threat in his words. Clara peeked from behind the bar, eyes wide, gripping the counter for support. Elias glanced at her, silently warning her to stay back. Every heartbeat seemed amplified in the night's stillness, each breath a reminder that the desert was merciless. Time slowed. Elias felt the air thicken, heavy with anticipation and gunpowder. The stranger in black stepped closer to the newcomer, his revolver low but ready. Step carefully, he warned. This gold carries consequences beyond your understanding. The man hesitated, calculating, the desert night pressing down upon them all. Elias's fingers tightened around the lockbox, aware that the gold's secret was a burden as heavy as its weight. Finally, the newcomer spoke, a hint of desperation in his tone. I've been sent to recover what belongs to my employer. They know the gold has changed hands, and they want it back. The words echoed in the quiet room. Elias swallowed, heart racing. The stranger in black nodded slightly, as if confirming what Elias already feared. The night's danger extended far beyond this saloon, beyond the desert, beyond the town itself. Elias's thoughts flickered to choices. Handing over the gold could save lives tonight but doom him later. Keeping it risked immediate death but might reveal the secret the stranger hinted at. The desert night seemed to listen, the wind whispering across broken windows. Each option felt heavier than the last, as if the gold had become a living force, demanding decisions, shaping destinies, testing the hearts of men. Suddenly, a noise from the rear startled everyone, a chair scraping against the floor, a shadow moving too quickly. The newcomer's hand went to his revolver. Elias ducked instinctively, and the stranger in black reacted with precision, stepping into the path between threat and traitor. For a moment, the room froze. caught between motion and stillness, life in its absence. Breath caught, hearts paused. The stranger spoke softly, his voice like gravel and silk. Elias, you must decide. Will you protect what is yours, or surrender to avoid the storm? Elias's eyes flicked to the lockbox. The gold inside seemed almost to pulse in agreement, as if urging him toward courage. He drew a slow breath, the night's chill creeping down his spine. The choice was clear in its danger and necessity. Clara stepped slightly forward, whispering, "Be careful, Elias." He nodded, grateful for her courage, aware that every soul in the room relied on his decision. The newcomer shifted again, tension radiating from him in waves. The stranger in black watched silently, a sentinel of inevitability. Outside, the desert held its breath, the stars shimmering with distant indifference. Elias spoke at last, voice steady despite trembling inside. "The gold stays. No one takes it tonight." A quiet settled over the room. The stranger in black nodded once, approvingly. The newcomer's eyes narrowed, calculating, and then he slowly withdrew his hand from his coat, reconsidering the immediate confrontation. Elias felt the weight of choice press down on him, knowing the night was far from over. Suddenly, a creak from the ceiling drew all eyes upward. Dust fell from a loose beam. Shadows shifted unnaturally. Elias realized the saloon itself seemed alive, a trap, a witness to greed and courage alike. He tightened his grip on the lockbox, preparing for whatever might descend next. The desert night outside whispered promises and threats alike, reminding him that the West was merciless, and gold even more so. The stranger in black finally spoke again. "Tonight is only the beginning. The gold reveals more than wealth. It exposes hearts. Be wary, Elias. You've made a choice, but the consequences have only started to ripple." His gaze swept the room, resting briefly on Clara before returning to the trader. Silence followed, heavy and full of unseen dangers, as though the desert had exhaled and the storm now waited for the right moment. Elias felt his pulse slow slightly but remained alert, knowing every second could bring disaster. The newcomer, realizing he could not force immediate action, retreated to the shadows, leaving the room tense, the threat lingering like smoke in the air. Elias looked at the lockbox again, aware it held not just gold, but a secret capable of changing lives. And in the quiet aftermath, he understood that this night, this choice, would be remembered long after the desert claimed silence once more. Outside, wind whistled through the broken windows, and the stars twinkled coldly. Elias breathed slowly, counting the quiet moments between danger and relief. The saloon felt empty, yet every creak and shadow reminded him. The night was alive, and it watched. The gold, the stranger, the desert, all were part of a chain, each link heavier than the last. And Elias knew, with the certainty of a man who had seen too much, that dawn would not bring peace, only another test. The saloon seemed to hold its breath, every shadow twisting as if alive. Elias tightened his grip on the lockbox, aware that each creak of the floorboards could announce danger. The stranger in black stepped closer, his presence heavy yet calm, like a storm contained. "Elias," he said softly, "you are guarding more than wealth. This gold carries a story, a curse perhaps, that changes those who touch it." Elias swallowed hard, the night's tension pressing against his chest. "A curse?" he asked, voice barely audible over the wind whistling through broken shutters. "I thought it was just gold." The stranger shook his head slowly. "Gold is never just gold on the frontier. It carries fear, envy, and death. Tonight, you must choose how far you'll go to protect it, and who you are willing to risk." Outside, the desert silence seemed deeper than ever, pressing against the saloon walls like a living thing. Clara remained behind the bar, her hands gripping the edge as if holding on to sanity. Elias could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on him as heavily as the lockbox itself. Every choice carried consequence, every movement might spark violence. He realized the gold's presence had shifted the air in the room, infusing it with tension. A sudden sound from the corner drew his attention. The newcomer from before had returned, silent and deliberate. His eyes glimmered with greed and resolve. "Hand it over," he said, voice cold. You can't keep it forever. Others will come. The town will not remain neutral. The gold will claim everything." Elias stood firm, jaw tight, heart pounding. The stranger in black remained beside him, revolver ready, a silent sentinel of fate. Elias's mind raced, weighing options. He could attempt to bluff, fight, or retreat. Yet the gold seemed to thrum in his hands, urging courage. The weight of it was both physical and psychological, as though it carried the collective desire and danger of everyone who had ever touched it. He knew that tonight, his choices would matter far beyond the walls of the saloon. The newcomer moved closer, hand brushing the handle of his revolver. Clara flinched, and Elias's pulse quickened. The stranger in black's voice cut through the tension. "Do not let greed blind you. The gold will test your instincts, Elias. Observe, act, survive." The words settled over him like a heavy cloak. Elias felt the truth of them. The night was a crucible, and he was the metal being forged. Another creak, another shadow. A patron, drunk and oblivious, lurched from behind a table, nearly triggering a deadly chain reaction. Elias instinctively shifted the lockbox behind him, heart hammering. The stranger in black's eyes tracked every movement. A predator and protector rolled into one. Elias realized that vigilance alone would not suffice. He had to act, but each action carried the risk of igniting violence. Elias took a slow, deliberate breath. "We can settle this without blood," he said firmly, voice steady despite the tremor beneath. "I'll keep the gold. You leave tonight. No one else needs to die." The newcomer hesitated, calculating, the glint of desperation in his eyes. The room's tension stretched taut, every sound amplified. The wind outside rattled a broken shutter, sounding like the crack of a distant rifle. The stranger in black stepped slightly forward. "Elias, the choice is yours. You may preserve life or surrender the gold. Your courage will be tested by more than threats. It will be tested by temptation. Gold does not merely enrich. It corrupts. Choose wisely." Elias felt the truth of that as acutely as the weight of the lockbox in his hands. He knew tonight would not end without sacrifice. A sudden movement drew everyone's gaze. The newcomer lunged toward the lockbox. Elias reacted instantly, shoving him back with all his strength. The man staggered, eyes wide with shock. The stranger in black's revolver moved like lightning, a warning shot fired above the man's head. The crack split the night and silenced the room for a heartbeat. Fear and adrenaline surged through Elias, cementing the understanding that he had stepped into something far larger than a simple day of trading. Clara exhaled, relief mingling with terror. "Elias," she whispered, but he only shook his head, eyes fixed on the gold. It was more than currency, more than wealth. It was a test, a force that measured hearts, choices, and courage. And now, after the first true confrontation, Elias realized the night had only just begun. The desert wind pressed against the saloon, whispering promises and warnings alike, reminding him that the frontier held no mercy for the timid or the greedy. The stranger in black lowered his revolver and studied Elias. "You survived the first trial, but trials come in waves. The gold has more power than you imagine. Tonight, it will reveal those who can endure and those who cannot." Elias pressed the lockbox closer, understanding that survival was about more than physical danger. It was about wisdom, restraint, and recognizing the invisible currents that flowed through this cursed treasure. Outside, the desert stars gleamed coldly, indifferent to the struggles below. Elias felt both small and immense, caught in the web of destiny and temptation spun by the gold he now guarded. The saloon was quiet, yet tension lingered in every shadow. The night was far from over, and the weight of choice pressed heavier than ever. He knew that, soon, he would face decisions that could cost more than gold. They could cost everything. The saloon's shadows seemed to stretch and twist with every flicker of the lanterns. Elias held the lockbox tighter, aware that the weight of gold was not only physical but moral, pressing on his conscience. The stranger in black remained close, silent but alert, eyes scanning the corners where danger might emerge. Outside, the desert wind rattled the windows, carrying the faintest whispers of impending violence. A sudden crash interrupted the tense quiet. The newcomer had thrown a chair across the floor. It skidded against a table, sending glasses and coins clattering. His eyes were wild, mouth set in a grim line. "Hand it over," he demanded, stepping closer. Elias felt the heat of fear, but he did not move. The gold pulsed in his hands, as if urging courage. Each breath felt heavy, loaded with consequence. The stranger in black's revolver moved with fluid precision, a silent warning. "Elias, stay calm. Do not provoke him unnecessarily, he said. Elias nodded, sweat running down his temple. He had learned long ago that panic was more dangerous than bullets. His mind raced through every possible outcome, aware that one wrong move could ignite the powder keg surrounding them. Clara ducked behind the bar, eyes wide and hands trembling. Elias, please, she whispered. He caught her gaze, feeling the gravity of responsibility. The gold was not just his burden. It was theirs. One wrong decision could end lives tonight. The room seemed to shrink, the lantern light casting eerie shadows that danced along walls scarred by previous brawls and gunfire. The newcomer lunged suddenly, reaching for the lockbox. Elias reacted instinctively, shoving him back with all the force he could muster. The man stumbled, cursing, and a revolver gleamed in the dim light. The stranger in black fired a warning shot, the echo splitting the tense silence. The bullet thudded into the wall above the man's head, sending dust and splinters into the air. For a moment, everything froze. The wind outside moaned through broken windows. Heartbeats pounded in Elias's ears. He realized that every moment counted. That hesitation could be deadly. The gold pulsed again, almost alive, as if aware of the danger surrounding it. Elias's mind sharpened. Survival demanded courage, calculation, and restraint. The newcomer glared, breathing heavily, eyes darting between Elias and the stranger in black. You think you can protect it? This gold belongs to someone else. His hand twitched toward the weapon again. Elias's fingers clenched the lockbox, resolve hardening. It's mine to guard tonight, he said firmly. Leave, and no one gets hurt. The desert air outside seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the decision. Suddenly, a shadow moved in the corner. Another figure, silent and dangerous, slipped toward the room, drawn by the rumors of gold. Elias's pulse quickened. The saloon was no longer just a building. It was a crucible, testing every instinct and every ounce of courage he possessed. The stranger in black stepped forward, revolver leveled, watching the new threat with predatory focus. Clara's whisper came again, trembling. Elias, please be careful. He nodded almost imperceptibly, feeling the weight of her trust. This night demanded clarity. Hesitation could cost lives. He adjusted his stance, ready for action, heart pounding yet steady. The desert outside howled, a reminder of the lawless world that awaited beyond the saloon's walls. The newcomer made another move. Faster this time, aiming for the lockbox. Elias reacted without thought, shoving him toward a table. Glasses shattered. The stranger in black's revolver flared again, a shot cutting through the tension but not striking anyone. The room vibrated with adrenaline and fear. The night had transformed into a chessboard, each player poised, every movement critical. Elias understood, in that suspended moment, that the gold was more than wealth. It was a force shaping the fates of all in the room. His grip tightened, knuckles white, as he realized that courage alone would not be enough. Strategy, restraint, and timing were now as important as speed and strength. The desert knight pressed against the saloon, indifferent, yet fully aware of the unfolding drama. A sudden creak of the ceiling made everyone flinch. Dust fell like tiny snowflakes, disturbed by the tense energy in the room. Elias's eyes swept the shadows. Another intruder? Or merely the building settling? Either way, the risk was real, and he had to respond immediately. His hand tightened on the lockbox, ready to shield it, ready to defend it with everything he had. The stranger in black's voice cut through the tension once more. Remember, Elias, the gold is not just gold. It tests hearts. The night will push you further than you expect. Protect what is yours, but do not let fear cloud judgment. Elias nodded, swallowing the lump of tension in his throat. The words were both warning and instruction, guiding him through the storm gathering inside the saloon. The newcomer paused, breathing ragged, eyes wary now. He seemed to understand that brute force alone would not succeed. Elias's chest heaved, pulse racing, yet a strange clarity settled over him. He was no longer just defending gold. He was defending choice, survival, and the fragile line between courage and disaster. The desert night pressed on, stars glinting coldly, as if watching the unfolding trial with impartial judgment. The room's atmosphere thickened. Every shadow seemed to hold a potential threat. Elias knew that the night had only begun. The gold pulsed in his hands, the lockbox heavy, yet comforting. The stranger in black remained vigilant, Yet his presence gave Elias a strange reassurance. The night would not end peacefully, he realized, but for now, they had survived the first deadly confrontation. The desert waited beyond the doors, patient, relentless, and unforgiving. The saloon air felt thick, charged with danger and anticipation. Elias held the lockbox close, its weight grounding him even as his mind raced. Every creak and whisper of wind outside made his heart jump. The stranger in black remained a calm shadow at his side, revolver ready, eyes scanning every corner. The gold within the box seemed to hum faintly, as if aware of the unfolding events, pressing its wool on those around it. The newcomer glared, fists tight, but hesitation flickered across his face. He had expected a simple theft, not a battle of wits and courage. "What's in that box?" he demanded, voice sharp, eyes darting between Elias and the stranger. Elias's hands tightened on the lockbox, knuckles white. "More than you can imagine," he said slowly, feeling the weight of truth in his words. "It's not just gold. It carries history, danger, and consequences." The stranger in black leaned slightly toward Elias, voice low but commanding. "The gold tests hearts," he whispered. "It exposes greed, fear, and courage alike. You must protect it, but you must also understand it. Those who seek it do so not for wealth alone, but for power over others. Never forget that." Elias nodded, feeling the truth in the words. The night had transformed into a crucible, forging choices that would last a lifetime. Suddenly, a shadow shifted near the far wall. Another figure slipped through the door, silent, moving with calculated steps. Elias's pulse quickened. The saloon was no longer merely a building. It was a battlefield, every corner a potential trap. Clara ducked behind the bar, eyes wide with fear. Elias took a steadying breath, centering himself, aware that hesitation could cost more than gold tonight. The newcomer took a step forward, reaching again for the box. "Hand it over," he spat, voice edged with panic and greed. Elias reacted instinctively, shifting to block him. The stranger in black fired a warning shot, the bullet thudding into the wall above the man's head. Dust and splinters fell, and the tension snapped tighter. Every heartbeat felt amplified, every breath weighed with consequence. The gold pulsed faintly, urging courage. Elias spoke firmly, voice calm despite trembling inside. "This gold stays. You leave tonight, or face what comes. No one else has to die." The newcomer's gaze flicked nervously to the stranger in black, realizing brute force alone would not succeed. Silence stretched, each second dripping with anticipation, the desert wind outside echoing faintly like a distant drumbeat. A creak above made them all flinch. Elias's eyes darted upward, scanning the rafters for hidden threats. The newcomer's attention wavered, uncertainty creeping into his posture. He weighed the risk, calculating whether pressing the attack was worth his life. Clara peeked from behind the bar, her breath trembling, gripping the edge like a lifeline. Elias nodded at her, silent reassurance, and focused again on the gold. The stranger in black stepped closer to Elias, revolver steady, voice calm yet commanding. "Elias, the choice is not merely possession. The gold reveals character. It tempts, tests, and judges. Tonight, your courage is measured not by strength, but by wisdom. Protect it, or the consequences will destroy more than your life." Elias's pulse raced. The lockbox felt impossibly heavy, its power pressing down like a living force. The newcomer made another sudden move, hand twitching toward his revolver. Elias reacted, shoving him back, spinning the box behind him. The stranger in black fired again, this time a shot that grazed the floor, sending splinters scattering. The tension in the saloon reached its peak. Every shadow seemed alive, every sound magnified. The night had become a living, breathing test of courage and resolve. Elias's mind cleared in the chaos. He realized the gold's secret was not just its material value. It represented choice, risk, and morality. Those who sought it were driven by greed or power. Those who guarded it faced fear and consequence. The weight of the lockbox was now both physical and moral, pressing lessons onto his shoulders with unrelenting force. The newcomer paused, realizing the battle was far from simple. Brute strength would not win. Elias's calm, fortified by the stranger's guidance, was a shield more powerful than bullets. The gold pulsed faintly, almost sentient, as if sensing the moment of judgment. Every instinct screamed that the night was far from over, that more danger and revelation awaited. The stranger in black's eyes met Elias's. "You've survived the first trials," he said softly. "But the night will push you further. The gold has secrets, and those secrets are dangerous. Be ready, Elias. The final choice is yet to come." Elias gripped the lockbox tighter, feeling its pull, its promise, and its danger. Outside, the desert wind whispered through broken windows, carrying the weight of inevitability. Clara exhaled quietly, a mix of relief and fear. Elias knew she understood, as he did, that the night had only just begun. The gold secret was stirring, and the consequences of its power would demand courage beyond anything he had imagined. The saloon, silent now except for the whispering wind, felt alive, watching, waiting. And Elias realized the desert night would test him far more than any man or weapon could. The saloon felt alive, every shadow twisting as though moving with intention. Elias pressed the lockbox to his chest, aware that the gold's presence pulsed through the room like a heartbeat. The stranger in black stood beside him, revolver ready, a calm sentinel amidst the storm. Outside, the desert wind moaned through broken windows, carrying the scent of dust, gunpowder, and the tension of a night poised on the edge of chaos. Suddenly, a metallic clang echoed from the back room. Elias's pulse jumped. The newcomer's eyes widened as he darted toward the sound, hand on his revolver. Clara shrank behind the bar, murmuring prayers. The gold seemed to vibrate faintly inside the lockbox, as if aware of approaching danger. Every nerve in Elias's body tightened, sensing that the night had escalated beyond negotiation. The stranger in black's voice was calm but sharp. "Elias, the gold has power beyond wealth. It stirs desire, fear, and desperation. Observe carefully. Tonight, it chooses who will be tested and who will succumb." Elias swallowed hard, feeling the weight of responsibility. The gold was no longer just a treasure. It was a force, alive and demanding, shaping the night with its hidden energy. The newcomer lunged again, more desperate this time, intent on seizing the lockbox. Elias reacted instinctively, shoving him backward. The stranger in black fired a warning shot, the bullet embedding in the wall with a loud thud. The room vibrated with tension. The air smelled of gunpowder, sweat, and the faint metallic scent of gold, creating a heady mix that pressed down on every soul in the saloon. Clara's voice trembled. "Elias, what will happen?" He shook his head slightly, gripping the lockbox tighter. The gold throbbed faintly, as though acknowledging his resolve. The newcomer hesitated, realization dawning that brute force alone would not prevail. Each breath in the room seemed amplified, each heartbeat louder, as though the desert outside was holding its own suspenseful vigil. A sudden crash drew their attention. The ceiling above creaked alarmingly, and the beam loosened, sending dust and small fragments raining down. The newcomer stumbled backward, eyes wide in panic. Elias pressed forward, moving as if guided by instinct. The gold's pull was magnetic, a mixture of temptation and warning, teaching him that courage alone would not suffice against the forces it carried. The stranger in black's voice cut through the tension like steel. "Elias, you must act with wisdom. The gold reveals character, true intentions, and weaknesses. The night will test all of you. Protect it, or it will destroy more than just property. Protect it, or lives will be lost." Elias's resolve hardened. The weight of the lockbox was both challenge and guide, a tangible measure of his responsibility. Another shadow flickered near the far wall. Elias's instincts flared. He anticipated the movement, blocking the newcomer's path toward the lockbox. The desert night pressed through the broken windows, cold and indifferent, reminding them that the outside world had no mercy. Inside, the saloon had become a crucible of human emotion, courage, and raw desperation. The newcomer's frustration peaked. "This is insane. You can't keep it," he yelled, voice cracking with desperation. Elias met his gaze steadily, feeling the gold pulse almost in response. "I guard it tonight," he said firmly. "No one else will take it." The stranger in black's eyes locked onto Elias's. Approval and caution mingled in the silent communication. The room seemed to contract around the unspoken truth. Survival depended on choices, not just strength. Dust fell from the rafters, stirred by tense movements. Clara held her breath, clutching the bar as though it were the only anchor to reality. Elias shifted slightly, preparing for the next move, aware that the night was far from over. Every creak, every whisper of wind, was a reminder that the gold's secret was active, watching, testing. Its presence was both a challenge and a warning. The newcomer made one last, desperate lunge. Elias moved, blocking, as the stranger in black fired another warning shot. The bullet shattered a bottle behind them, sparks and glass scattering across the floor. The gold pulsed strongly inside the lockbox, vibrating with energy that seemed to echo the rapid heartbeat of the saloon itself. Elias realized the night had reached a crescendo, the confrontation inevitable and near. The desert wind howled, rattling the shutters and carrying a faint metallic echo. Elias's fingers gripped the lockbox, feeling the gold's weight like the pull of destiny itself. The room was tense, every shadow a threat, every breath a measured risk. The stranger in black remained steady, watching, waiting. The newcomer froze, aware that the gold's true power was not in its metal, but in the way it shaped human hearts. Elias exhaled slowly, his mind sharpened by fear and responsibility. The night's climax was near. The gold's secret had begun to manifest fully, stirring desire, testing courage, and exposing weakness. He understood that every choice now carried immediate consequence. Every hesitation might be fatal. The saloon, alive with tension, waited silently as the final confrontation approached, and the desert night beyond promised no mercy. The saloon held its breath. Shadows clung to corners, flickering in the lantern light. Elias pressed the lockbox to his chest, aware of its thrum, almost alive, as if anticipating the storm. The stranger in black stood unwavering beside him, revolver trained on the desperate newcomer. Outside, the desert wind whispered through broken windows, a cold chorus to the tension within. Every heartbeat seemed amplified. The newcomer lunged, fury and greed fueling his movements. Elias shifted, blocking instinctively, the lockbox heavy in his hands. The stranger in black fired a warning shot, the bullet embedding in the wall with a loud crack. Glasses shattered, dust floated in the air, and the room seemed to shrink under the weight of suspense. The gold pulsed faintly, its energy threading through every movement, every choice. Clara ducked lower, praying silently, her knuckles white on the edge of the bar. Elias's mind raced, yet he remained calm, letting instinct guide him. The gold's secret was manifesting. It tested courage, patience, and wisdom. One wrong move could ignite violence, costing lives. The newcomer's eyes flickered with calculation, realizing sheer force would not seize the treasure he sought. The stranger in black stepped closer, voice calm, deliberate. Elias, tonight reveals more than strength. The gold chooses who will endure. Protect it, and your character will determine survival. Hesitate, and consequences will spread beyond these walls. Elias nodded, swallowing fear, gripping the lockbox tighter. The gold's weight was both physical and moral, anchoring him in the storm of tension. Another crash rang from the corner. The newcomer had thrown a chair, scattering coins and glasses across the floor. The shouts of panic from patrons and shadows of fleeing figures made the room feel alive, almost sentient. Elias moved with precision, blocking the man, responding to threats before they fully materialized. The gold pulsed stronger, as if urging courage and resolution, guiding him through the chaos. The newcomer growled, desperation flashing in his eyes. I don't care about rules. Hand it over. Elias held his ground. No one touches it tonight, he said firmly. The stranger in black fired another warning shot, embedding a bullet in the ceiling above. Sparks and splinters rained down. Dust swirled like mist, carrying the metallic scent of gold and gunpowder. Every nerve in Elias's body was taut with anticipation and dread. Suddenly, the gold in the lockbox seemed to pulse violently, almost sentient. A faint hum filled the air, stirring fear and awe alike. Elias realized the true secret. The gold did not merely hold value. It revealed intentions, magnified emotions, and exposed every heart in the room. The newcomer faltered, eyes widening as he felt its pull. Clara clutched the bar, breath shallow, sensing the power radiating from the box. The stranger in black's voice cut sharply through the tense silence. Elias, now, act with judgment. Protect the gold, protect lives, and let courage guide you. The night will test you, but weakness will destroy more than the greedy. Elias's muscles coiled, heart pounding, yet he moved with calm precision. Every decision now was critical, every action irreversible. He would not fail. The final confrontation began. The newcomer lunged once more, slower this time, weighed down by fear and realization. Elias shifted, blocking, pushing him toward the door. The stranger in black's revolver fired a shot into the wall, a warning that left no doubt. Elias was in control. The gold pulsed in rhythm with the pounding of the room's tension, guiding him, testing him. Clara's voice trembled. "Elias, please." He glanced at her, nodding briefly. The moment was clear. The gold demanded courage, restraint, and awareness. Elias took a step, his stance firm, blocking any escape for the man, ensuring the threat would not escalate further. Every breath in the saloon carried the weight of danger and consequence. The desert night outside howled its approval or warning, he could not tell which. The newcomer froze, realization dawning that brute force alone could not prevail. Elias's calm, guided by instinct and the subtle counsel of the stranger, was more powerful than violence. The gold throbbed faintly in the lockbox, as if recognizing the rightful guardian. Every shadow seemed to recede, every sound hushed, leaving only the pulse of gold and the beating hearts of those who survived. Finally, the newcomer stepped back, defeat and awe mixed in his expression. Elias held the lockbox high, unwavering. The stranger in black lowered his weapon, a silent nod acknowledging the triumph. The room's tension slowly ebbed, leaving the faint smell of dust, gunpowder, and gold in the air. The night had tested courage, exposed hearts, and revealed the secret of power. It resided not just in the treasure, but in the choices made to protect it. Clara exhaled, relief washing over her like cool water. Elias's chest heaved, pulse gradually returning to normal. The desert wind outside sang softly through broken windows, carrying a promise of dawn, yet whispering reminders of the trials that had just passed. The saloon, now silent, seemed to watch, acknowledging that the night had been survived, that courage had triumphed, and that the gold secret had been honored. Elias closed the lockbox, its weight grounding him, reminding him that survival required vigilance, wisdom, and heart. The stranger in black's eyes met his briefly. "Tonight you proved yourself," he said. "The gold reveals those who endure, and you have endured. But remember, every choice echoes beyond the desert. Guard it well." Elias nodded, understanding the truth. The night had tested more than strength. It had tested character. Outside, stars twinkled coldly, indifferent yet illuminating the desert. The wind whispered across the dunes, a silent witness to the night's trials. Elias felt the gravity of his responsibility settle in, heavier than the lockbox itself. The gold was more than treasure. It was a mirror of intent, a force that demanded courage and discernment. Tonight, he had survived, but the lessons lingered. The desert night promised that vigilance and heart would always be required. The saloon was quiet now, broken only by the faint whistle of wind through the shattered windows. Dust settled slowly, coating overturned chairs and scattered coins. Elias leaned against the bar, the lockbox heavy in his hands but grounding him. The stranger in black remained near the door, watchful but relaxed, his presence a reminder that the night's trials were survived but not forgotten. Clara stepped cautiously from behind the bar, her hands shaking slightly. "Is it over?" she asked softly. Elias nodded, chest still heaving from adrenaline. "For now," he said. "But the gold, it has its own power. It tests hearts. Tonight was only the beginning of understanding what it truly means to guard it." The shadows seemed less threatening now, yet their lessons lingered. The newcomer had vanished into the desert night, leaving only footprints in the dust as a warning of future threats. Elias studied them, understanding that survival was not merely about courage but vigilance. The gold had chosen him tonight, revealing both danger and responsibility. Its weight in his hands felt heavier now, infused with lessons of restraint, choice, and the moral cost of guarding something so potent. The stranger in black spoke quietly. "Elias, you have endured the night. The gold tests all who come near it, revealing greed, fear, and courage alike. Your choices tonight have proven your character, but remember, the desert is patient, and threats may return. Guard it well, and let wisdom guide your actions." Elias nodded, absorbing the truth in every syllable. Clara moved closer, brushing dust from the edge of the bar. You were brave, she whispered. Elias offered a tired smile, aware that bravery alone had not been enough. Strategy, awareness, and trust had carried him. He glanced at the lockbox. The gold quiet now, almost inert, yet radiating an unspoken power. The night had passed, but its lessons would remain, etched into every heartbeat and shadow of the saloon. The wind carried faint whispers from the desert, reminding them of the lawless world outside. Elias breathed slowly, letting the adrenaline fade, yet remaining alert. The gold had tested them, showing both danger and opportunity. Survival had depended on quick thinking and moral clarity. He understood that the frontier demanded more than skill. It demanded heart, patience, and the ability to act under pressure. The stranger in black finally moved toward the door, pausing to nod at Elias. Tonight is done, but the gold will always test. Remember your lessons. Choices echo far beyond this saloon. Trust in your courage and discernment. With that, he stepped into the shadows, leaving Elias and Clara alone in the quiet aftermath, the saloon echoing with the memory of tension and confrontation. Elias set the lockbox carefully on the bar, hands lingering on its cool metal. The weight felt symbolic, a reminder that guarding something of value meant responsibility beyond mere possession. He glanced at Clara, whose expression mixed relief and admiration. The night had tested them, revealing strengths and weaknesses alike. And the gold had emerged as a mirror of intent, reflecting their choices and courage. Outside, the desert stars glimmered coldly, indifferent yet watchful. The wind rustled through broken windows, carrying the faint scent of dust and gunpowder. Elias felt a strange peace settle over him, the tension of the night fading into awareness. The gold had shown its power, the night had tested his courage, and he had survived. Yet he knew the lessons would linger long after dawn, shaping his actions in the days to come. Clara leaned against the bar, exhaling slowly. You kept it safe, she said softly. Elias nodded, eyes on the lockbox. For tonight, he replied. Tomorrow may bring new challenges, but tonight, we endured. The gold taught us what we needed to learn. Courage, patience, and clarity will guide us forward. The saloon seemed to breathe with them, the shadows softening in the early hours of night's end. The first faint light of dawn crept through cracks in the shutters, illuminating dust particles dancing in the golden glow. Elias held the lockbox close, feeling both relief and resolve. The desert outside remained vast and unforgiving, yet the trials of the night had revealed his ability to withstand its challenges. The gold, silent now, had shared its secret. Its true value lay not in wealth, but in the courage and choices of those who guard it. The first light of dawn painted the saloon in pale gold and amber. Dust particles floated lazily in the sunbeams that filtered through broken shutters, illuminating the chaos left from the night's trials. Elias sat behind the bar, lockbox resting on the counter, its weight heavy yet comforting. The desert outside remained vast, silent, and indifferent, as if the events of the night had been a private storm within its boundaries. Clara approached quietly, her steps cautious but steady. It's finally calm, she whispered. Elias nodded, a faint smile touching his lips. For now, he replied. The gold has its secrets. Tonight it tested courage, patience, and morality. We've survived, but the lesson remains. Vigilance and wisdom are just as valuable as bravery. Shadows softened, the saloon no longer a battleground but a place of reflection. The stranger in black had left, disappearing into the desert haze. Elias knew he had been both guardian and guide, a reminder of the forces beyond the immediate world. The night had been a crucible, shaping resolve and revealing character. The gold had demanded more than physical strength. It required discernment, courage, and heart. Elias felt that weight not as a burden, but as a compass pointing toward purpose. The lockbox sat quietly on the bar, inert yet brimming with unspoken power. Elias reached out, placing a hand on its cool surface. Its thrum had quieted, replaced by a sense of solemn promise. Clara leaned beside him, both sharing the silent understanding that the gold's influence had changed them. It had been more than treasure. It had been a mirror, reflecting desires, fears, and the resilience of the human spirit. Outside, the desert stretched endlessly, soft light casting long shadows across dunes and broken paths. Birds called faintly in the distance, and the wind whispered through creosote and sand. Elias exhaled slowly, feeling the tension of the night lift, but its lessons remained. The gold had shown its secret, and survival had proven their courage. Now, the desert awaited their next choices, patient and indifferent, yet full of opportunity. Clara's voice was soft but resolute. "What will you do now?" she asked. Elias's gaze rested on the horizon, eyes narrowing in thought. "We protect what must be protected," he replied. "The gold, yes, but also our choices, our lives, and the integrity of our actions." Tonight taught us that true value lies not in wealth, but in heart, judgment, and courage. The dawn deepened, painting the world in possibilities. He rose, the lockbox heavy but reassuring in his hands. Each step toward the door felt deliberate, a passage from night into light. The saloon, scarred from chaos, now breathed tranquility. Shadows of conflict faded, replaced by warmth and reflection. Elias understood that the frontier would test him again, but tonight's trials had prepared him. Courage and wisdom were allies, fear a teacher, and the gold a silent guardian of lessons learned. Clara followed, eyes bright with relief. The desert sun warmed their faces, the cool night giving way to the promise of day. Elias held the lockbox carefully, understanding its value was not merely material. It had been a crucible, a test, and a teacher. The gold's secret lay in the way it exposed hearts, and now, he and Clara had survived its judgment, emerging stronger, wiser, and united. The wind whispered softly across the dunes, carrying the scent of sand, creosote, and distant freedom. Elias paused, looking back at the saloon one last time. The night's chaos remained in memory, a reminder of courage, danger, and the lessons of choice. He turned to Clara, a shared glance acknowledging survival, growth, and the understanding that life on the frontier demanded more than strength. It demanded heart and judgment. With a final step into the warm desert light, Elias felt both the weight of responsibility and the lightness of survival. The gold throbbed faintly, no longer demanding, now quiet, almost at peace. He knew the night's trials would linger, shaping decisions, sharpening instincts, and teaching patience. The desert stretched before them, vast and endless, a world of challenges and opportunity awaiting those brave enough to face it. Clara squeezed his hand lightly. "We made it," she whispered. Elias nodded, a faint smile on his lips. "Yes," he said, "we've survived, we've learned, and the dawn brings new beginnings. The gold secret remains, but we are ready for whatever comes next." Together, they stepped forward, the desert sun rising higher, painting the world in golden hope and quiet promise, closing the chapter on a night of peril yet opening the path to a future defined by courage, wisdom, and heart. The first light of dawn seeped through the saloon's broken shutters, painting the dust-filled air in soft gold. Elias rested behind the bar, the lockbox on the counter, its weight a reminder of the night's trials. The chaos had faded, leaving silence thick and almost sacred. Outside, the desert stretched endlessly, indifferent yet witness to the choices, courage, and restraint shown within these walls. Clara stepped lightly toward him, her face a mixture of relief and awe. "It's finally quiet," she whispered. Elias nodded, taking a deep breath. "For now," he said. "The gold has its secrets. It tests hearts, reveals intentions, and measures courage. Tonight, it taught us the price of vigilance, patience, and judgment." The shadows in the saloon softened, giving way to calm reflection. The stranger in black had vanished into the morning light, leaving only the lessons of the night behind. Elias traced a finger across the lockbox's cool metal, aware that its power was not in its weight but in the choices it provoked. Greed, fear, and desire had been tested. Courage, patience, and wisdom had emerged. The gold had been both a challenge and a mirror, reflecting the hearts of all who dared approach it. Outside, the desert whispered in the wind, carrying the scent of sand, sun-warmed creosote, and freedom. Birds called faintly in the distance, and the first hints of warmth brushed the town. Elias exhaled slowly, feeling the tension lift, replaced by clarity. The night had demanded strength, cunning, and moral judgment. He had survived, but the lessons of restraint and awareness would linger far longer than the memory of conflict. Clara leaned closer, her voice soft but steady. What will you do now? Elias looked toward the horizon, eyes narrowing in thought. We protect what must be protected, he said. Not just gold, but our choices, our integrity, and the lives intertwined with them. Tonight proved that true wealth is courage, judgment, and heart. Everything else is fleeting. The dawn light deepened, casting long, warm shadows across the bar. He rose, lifting the lockbox with care, each step deliberate, grounding him. The saloon, once a battleground, now felt like a sanctuary of lessons learned. Every broken glass and overturned chair was a reminder of the choices made, the courage summoned, and the danger survived. Elias understood the frontier demanded more than strength. It demanded presence, clarity, and moral resolve. Clara followed, eyes bright with admiration and relief. The desert outside promised both challenge and opportunity. Elias held the lockbox firmly, knowing its secret remained intact but respected. Its power had been revealed, but only through courage and choice. Together, they stepped into the warm embrace of morning, leaving the night's shadows behind, carrying with them the certainty that wisdom, courage, and heart would always guide them forward. The wind whispered across the dunes, soft and approving, a silent witness to the night's trials. Elias paused, taking one final glance at the saloon, the memories of peril and triumph etched into every corner. With Clara at his side, he walked into the endless desert light, the weight of responsibility balanced by clarity of purpose. The gold secret endured, but so did their courage, ready for whatever the frontier would demand next.